look at the big air. Oh, that's Josh running wide. Look how close they are. And away they go. The two Subarus get away fairly evenly. Kieran tries to go in wide. Oh, Tom's hit Kieran. But Josh goes back on the inside. Gary goes wide. Mike goes up the inside of Gary. Oh, there's a bit of a tap there. Oh, there's Craig has pushed Sam into the wall. Josh Hardy wins his second ever win and the second win of the day. Chris doing more rallycross in the BMW than actual touring car racing, and it's the first win for Mark Nicol in the Renault Megane. Joe's definitely going to get it. A fantastic win for Heafy on his debut event, his first ever win in the Nissan GTR, unless Kieran can make a last minute dive. And he does, and Mark Nicol is 6th, which means he's the independent champion for season 2. Craig Keller in the Nissan GTR is going to be a win for Craig. Craig Keller is going to take the win in this race. Craig Keller is your season 2 FWTC champion. Here's your grid for race 2 here at Fuji Speedway. Then Mike Kuipers on pole position for the second time of the day in the K&N Racing Nissan GTR. Next to Rob Pellet in the first of the Elliott Racing Nissan GTRs. Row 2 is the second Elliott Racing GCR of Craig Kellett, next to Con Hewlett in his Subaru WRX. Row 3 is Harry Cook in his BMW M4, next to Gary Black in the Renault Megane. Row 4 is Joe Burrows in the first of the HB Motorsports Hyundai Genesis, next to Joe McCall in his BMW M4. Row 5 is the second HB Motorsports of Stephen Heath, next to Tom Foster in the Ford Mustang of K-Tech Racing. Row 6 is Mark Nicol in the K&N Racing Nissan GTR, next to Tom Wright in his Renault Megane. Row 7 is Darren Parker in his BMW M4, next to Josh Hardy in the Renault Megane. And the back row of the grid is Kieran Thomas in the second of the K-Tech Racing Ford Mustangs, and of course Callum Baker in his Subaru WRX. Okay then, race 2 of the day, and again we've got Mike Kuipers in the Nissan GTR on the front row of the grid with Rob Pellet, and away they go. And of course it's a good start by the Nissans. And Rob gets a little bit of a better start, and that's Connor Hewlett making a bit of a dive on the inside, and a little bit of tyre screeching, but it looks like everyone has got through cleanly. So Mark is in 5th, and already here's Joe Burrows making a push on the back of Tom, who's made a really good start to get himself into 5th already. And that's a tiny little push there by Joe, and Tom runs wide, but gets back on the track and is just next to Joe McCall. They go down into the hairpin chicane for the first time, and that was Joe getting sideways, but manages to keep the car facing the right way, and he's losing a lot of space. He's pushing him down nearly to 10th. Joe's on the outside of Tom, and actually, as you can see, that is Darren Parker, who seems to have made some good progress as well as Tom, up into 8th. And alright, but he's sideways, and Darren is facing the wrong way. So this is terrible luck for Darren again, frustrating for him no doubt, and it's just not going to plan for Darren, unfortunately. So he gets back underway, but he's got a lot of work to do to catch up with the rest of the pack. On board with Darren then, as he comes round this corner here. Is he taken? No, I mean there's contact at the end, but I think it just looks like he's spun the wheels out himself. On board here with Stephen Heath, as we get a better view behind Darren. There's Josh. Yeah, look, Darren's fortunately lost it before Josh makes contact. So in the lead then, the lead pack here, we've got Craig now leading, on board with Rob. And this means it's a 1-2 so far for Elite Racing in the Nissans, with Mike Kuipers behind. No doubt Mike will keep them on their toes. Oh, that's Rob making a move on Craig, so inter-team battles as well, which is good to see early in the season. So Connor still doing very well in the fourth. Again, if he can keep behind this pack here, it would be another great result for him. So Mark is in fifth, with Joe in sixth still, Gary seventh, Joe is eighth. Tom has dropped down to ninth now, with Josh behind, and here's Josh and Tom battling out with Stephen Heath, who's down in 11th. Oh, a bit of a tap there from Stephen. I think Tom has gone really wide there. It's going to drop down again, off on the grass, back on the circuit as they go down the straight. And we go on board with Tom Wright behind Tom Foster. Tom making some good progress here. Look at the speed on the slipstream. The Renaults are very quick in a straight line, but of course they're very, very tail happy when it comes to those corners. And that is Joe Burrows, who's gone really wide. He's going to drop down behind Tom. Then Stephen jumps up a position into ninth. Josh is of course eighth, and further up, we've got Joe McCall now behind Mark Nichol, so put the pressure on Mark, who is having to deal with the hard tyres here. So Joe's still fighting with Gary and Mark, so Gary's got ahead of Joe, but a good clean race so far from the mid pack here. Back up the front then, and on board with Craig, who has got Mike and Rob ahead. This is really close racing. Rob is still ahead of Mike, with Craig obviously behind, so again, will there be some team tactics going on with the fact that the two Elite Racing cars can support each other? Don't forget Craig is on mediums. Look at the swerving that Mike is doing to try and distract Rob, try and get in position, and he's got him on the hairpin chicane. I think Rob might still have the inside, so it's still looking good for Rob, defending hard. And that's Craig on the inside of Mike. He's going to push Mike wide, so Mike is having to look behind him and focus on Craig now instead of having Rob there. And all this time as well, Connor Hewlett could take advantage of it if it all gets a bit messy. And Craig has got a better slipstream down the straight, so that's allowed the Elite Racing cars to take the 1-2 back again. Further back, Gary Black is still fighting with Joe, and that looks like Mark has dropped off behind those, and he's now in the hands of Josh and Stephen Heath. was really good for the debut of Joe McCall, a first race for him in his BMW. Race 1 was pretty good too, so he has settled himself very quickly in the mid-pack. Mark on the back of Josh here, and Josh in a much better position than he was in race 1. And this little mid-pack here as well, a bit further down, there's a tussle between the two Hyundai HB Motorsports and Tej, which is running in his Renault. There's a bit of a push wide, and that's Tej who's spinning the rear wheels out, so it's slowed him right down. Those two Hyundais look fantastic together. So Kieran has just got ahead of Tom right then. Tom, again, look at the speed down the straight, the slipstream. Darren has to brake early to get the car to turn around without spinning out, and he stays ahead of Kieran. And then of course there's Tom and Callum, who is struggling at the back with his older Subaru. Further up, so Rob is still leading, but he's made a mistake. He's gone wide, and that's allowed Mike to get aside, and he's on the inside now, but still can't make that position up. Mike is on the back of Rob and putting pressure on for most of this race, and he's got the overlap here. He's got alongside him again. Fantastic clean racing between these two, actually 3 of them, because Craig's been there pretty much most of the time as well. And Mike on the grass. Side by side again as they come down to the hairpin for turn 1. Who's going to get it? It's a bit of a late one for Rob, and he pushes Mike wide, and that's allowed Craig to get in, and Mike is sideways on the grass, and it's nearly allowed Connor to get ahead as well. On board with Connor, and as you can see, Mike is behind him now, so the two Elite Racing Nissan GTRs are leading yet again. And Conor Hewlett now is on the podium in 3rd, with Mike behind him after going wide. It was a little bit of a push, but all fair and square. Further down, Josh has really made some progress, and he's up to 5th now, but he's sideways again, and Gary Black has gone past. The two in very similar machinery, both in a Renault Megane, but of course tuned by their own respective teams. So Stephen Heath still in 8th. Mark Nichol is still struggling mid-pack on those hard tyres, so he's dropping off slightly. On board with Tom Wright again, as Darren is sorry, it's Harry, not Darren. Of course, Darren went off earlier. My mistake earlier on as well. So Tom and Harry having a battle here. Two Mustangs are racing together as a team, but not in a good way at the moment because they're both at the back. Callum still struggling, but this is a sobering situation for Darren, who got a fantastic start to the season and has had to really deal harsh with the hard tyre ballast situation of season 3's regulations. Back up the front then, and Mike has got past Connor, so he's back up to third at least. Now he's got to deal with Craig again, even before he can consider the lead of the race. And he's running out of laps to see if he can get a double win. And Mike has got to move. He's got the slipstream, so he's got past Craig even before the corner arrives, and down into, again, turn 1 in the hairpin. And Mike runs wide again on the grass, but it looks like he stayed ahead of Craig, so he's managed to do that. Now he's just got to focus on getting up to Rob. Oh, bit of a job there by Craig. So a three-way tussle here between Gary, Josh and Joe still. Just a bit further down, Harry's behind Heathy, and Mark has dropped down even further and into the clutches of Tom Wright. Whoa, that's a dive and a half from Tom, but he runs wide, and that didn't work out for him. Over the grass he goes. He'll try it next time. Of course, the two Mustangs and Callum still at the back. So back up the front again onto lap 10. And Mike has caught up to Rob in the slipstream, and so the fight is on. And look at that for a move. That's fantastic from Mike. Bit of a tap. Again, Mike says get on with it, otherwise I'll pass you. Oh, Rob runs wide. Mike has got on the inside, and Mike takes the lead again from Rob. Yet again, Mike Kuipers is leading the race. After winning race 1, he could get 2 wins out of this now, which will be massive in the points. Whoa, there's contact, bit of a push, but it all ends up okay. A bit more push and shove. Yeah, their elbows are coming out now. They're getting to the point where they want this win. They both want it. Rob runs wide, comes back on the track. A push from Craig on Rob. That pushes Mike wide. This is fantastic racing. Connor is on the back of it still as well. It's a 4-car train. Look at it. On board with Connor, 3-way into the hairpin, and that's Mike who's won it. He comes out in the lead. Connor is back into 3rd. Craig is down to 4th again. Rob in 2nd. This is fantastic, close racing, just what you expect. In actual fact, Mike has got just that small gap that's allowed him a little bit of a respite, and he just needs to focus on facing forward now to see if he can take that win. Further down, Josh is still fighting, but he's fighting with Heathy now, and Harry Cook is in the background. Gary's dropped off, so something must have happened with Gary. There's a 6-car train here as well that's all fighting for 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th and 8th. And even further, Tom and I think that's Mark fighting. Look how close this is as well. Bit of push and shove again into the last chicane. On board with Mad Joe. Down into the first corner, hits it a 3-way. Oh, that's Josh who's gone a little bit wide, but he's managed to do it. More fantastic racing again. Look how close it is. And Harry Cook is getting involved as well, doing some rallycross. Further up then, Rob on the back of Mike. Can he get past into that very, very tight chicane? They both run slightly wide. Again, Mike running a little bit wide there, but I don't think Rob's got enough to put the foot down to see if we can get past him on the straight. So Mike Kuipers is going to come away with win number 2 of the day, just ahead of Rob in second. A fantastic fight though. Craig takes 3rd, Connor takes 4th. Heathy's going to come away with a decent 5th ahead of this big bunch up pack midway down the grid. So Heathy comes away with 5th, Josh in 6th. Harry is just ahead of Gary. Joe 9th, Joe 10th, Mark is 11th, Tom Wright is 12th, Tom Foster 13th, Kieran is 14th, Callum nearly finishes the grid in 15th, and then Darren, a real frustrating and awakening race for Darren of how difficult it is going to be for everyone on those hard tyres come the next rounds for whoever is going to be on them. So Darren right at the back of the grid. Mike takes the second win of the day then, with an identical set of results for Rob and Craig in 2nd and 3rd, with Connor in 4th. Stephen takes a strong 5th ahead of Josh in 6th, with Harry 7th, Gary 8th, Joe 9th, Joe McCall in 10th, Mark in 11th, Tom Wright in 12th, Tom Foster in 13th, Kieran 14th, Callum 15th, and Darren Parker finishes at the back. What this means for the title then for the drivers, Mike jumps up into the lead with 73 points, with Rob jumping up into 2nd with 63. Craig drops down to 4th, and Stephen down to 5th, with Darren and the rest follow on from there. In the teams then, it's a slight switch around, with Elliot jumping up to 1st with 138. K&N are only 2 points behind with 136. HB Motorsports move up to 3rd with 103, just a point ahead of K-Tech and DC, who are 4th and 5th with 102. In the independents, Connor jumps up to 1st with 91 points ahead of Gary with 87. Josh is still in 4th, but is moving up very quickly with 61, and Tom Wright is still in 3rd with 67. Joe McCall with 28, and Callum with 20 points.